chasing all these dreams, I'm getting very close. Your work shouldn't feel like work if you really love it. If you set and you know your worth, then think if it's worth it. But I do count my blessings first, so you know I'm grateful every night. But watch me, baby, I'ma take it there. Tell ya I'ma stay the path. Tell ya I've been chasing all these dreams, I'm getting very close. Here we go. Your work shouldn't feel like work if you really love it. If you set and you know your worth, then think if it's worth it. But I do count my blessings first, so you know I'm grateful every night.
All right, we're back. This is the Mind Growth Mission with David Schweit. I have a special guest, entrepreneurial spirit that I met only a few months ago through Instagram and through my friend Robin, who's been on the podcast. But this girl's doing some special things, and she's one of those spirits that's ambitious and getting out of her comfort zone and doing so many things for so many people lately and bringing people together, building a community. And I'm very proud of her. Bri Blair, what's up? Good to see you.
Such kind words already. I love it.
Oh, man, I love to hype my people up, but it's all true. It's all authentic.
It's all authentic. Yeah. I see what you did there.
But Bri has started her podcast recording of the Real Reveal podcast, where authenticity meets ambition. Yeah. She wrote out some amazing things here, a lot of big words. So I just want you to share it in your eyes and in your own words here. What got you going? Why are we here?
Bold question. All right. So if we're talking about the podcast specifically and what that is focused on, it's mainly because we have conversations every day with people, right? And are we masking ourselves for conversations and really truly getting to know each other? Or are we diving deeper into our true selves to create connections? Because we're human, and
I love it.
Psychologically speaking, humans drive off connection. Same thing goes for business, right? If you were to go into a meeting and here's my business card, are you going to remember someone that way? Or are you going to remember them through their like relationships?
How they made you feel.
Yeah, how they made you feel. Like, and that's really what that podcast is going to focus on, is like the creating the relationships between one another, having the hard conversations, and then hopefully leading to some sort of growth in some way, whether it's like, hey, like for example, like your story, like I know there's so much there that could be talked about, and like my own story, and like another friend who's coming onto the podcast, and like we're going to talk about like her background through her self-discovery through yoga and how she became the person she is. But it took hard work. But when we talk about hard work, what does that even mean? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's different for everybody.
And that's kind of like what we're breaking in and like checking off the boxes. Like, I was someone that checked off the boxes for years, up to the point, like, every single one, like, I can tell you I did. And then I was like, why am I doing this? Like, am I actually fulfilling everything, or am I doing it because society told me to?
Right.
And we're putting on a front to society versus creating real relationships around each other that strive us to be the people we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of living the facade of here's how it's supposed to be, it's like, what's actually more of a connection amongst others, right? And I've been lucky to have great parents who made you feel welcome and would look you in your eyes and kind of set the precedent for like how I should be with people and how I should interact and how I should look for the qualities in others and really try to, ask that extra question or two to get to know them. I mean, it's so funny, like people on social settings, they'll get right to business, right? Instead of, okay, let me get to know you, let me see what the connection is, and let me see what the common bond is. And working in sales and sales management, there's so much of that, like finding the connection, make people like you first, and also like genuinely care about them and what they're about. And there's always something, in my opinion, that you can find that somebody has of importance in their life that would be important in yours as well. Or there's stuff you're seeking that you could learn from this person. And that's the biggest thing for me. I always want to find out what that special thing is that person has, so I can kind of get some takeaways from it. And sometimes you find that out in like the first 10 seconds. Because people give off that energy, that aura. You're definitely one of those, like super kind, super sweet, just naturally, it's so pure and so easy to talk to you. And that's a skill, that's a quality, right? Not everybody has that, like the easily approachable state, and that's the energy you give off. That's something you can work on as well. And people put themselves in a box sometimes and don't realize, like, hey, I can actually work on that. I can make that like a skill of mine or a superpower of mine.
Yeah.
And it's usually the thing you're most afraid of. And we'll get to that with your different challenges you seeked out recently and putting yourself out of your comfort zone. But, but that's one thing I've learned as well. And I try to carry forward. And one thing is consistency. I mean, that's probably the hardest thing, right? Most entrepreneurs I've talked to on this podcast have mentioned consistency is like the key to breaking through the thresholds, right?
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of us fail. We get to a certain point where we get super relaxed or super complacent, and then we get away from it, and then we're taking steps back instead of taking steps forward to get ourselves out of our comfort zone more. So all these things that you have going on, I'm super impressed by, but I know there's going to be more and more and more that you keep stacking up. Just I can tell you're on a mission. So let me ask you about that.
Okay.
For somebody so sweet, so I don't know if you're introverted. Are you introverted?
If you ask my parents, I'm introverted. If you ask anybody else, I'm an extrovert.
Okay, perfect.
I define myself as like a 70-30 extrovert.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the reason I ask that is because you come off as like so sweet, so kind, so gentle, like I said, easily approachable, but like that's not always how you describe people that are extroverts. Extroverts sometimes people think are loud and like very like boom, 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 like, you know, very in your face a little bit, and you come like just a super ease about you and the way you operate. So let me ask you, have you always been that way? And when did you see a shift for yourself of maybe wanting to take on new challenges and get out of your comfort zone?
Yeah.
And where did that start?
Good question. To address the introvert versus the extrovert, man, you're digging deep, because when I was a kid, I like played soccer and like was a part of all these things, and I was the loud, annoying kid. I will very much say that. However, I then went to 3 high schools and 2 colleges, so I became the new kid. The person in the morals of who I am, of being like kind and like wanting to help others, has never changed. But the approach in learning how to walk into a room has changed. So if I'm coming to walk into a room and I'm in hostess mode, we're loud, like we're good, like we're gonna connect in a network.
Yeah.
But if it's a one-on-one situation, I know I can calm down my energy and like be with my people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like I know your energy, you know mine. Like I can kind of sit down for a second.
Okay, so early life you were exposed to a lot of new environments.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I learned how to kind of navigate what situation I'm in and how do I react to that situation, which is a very interesting perspective of where I am now, because people are like, oh, how do you just walk into a networking like event or something?
Yeah.
My first thing I'll tell anybody is like, just go. You don't have to do anything. Just walk into the room.
People will come up to you.
Yeah,
probably,
people
right?
will come up and like don't sit there with your arms crossed and like on
Yeah.
your cell phone. Like you give yourself no opportunity to welcome people into your life versus just coming in like chest up, shoulders back, like with confidence. People like, love that energy and they're more willing to approach you.
Yeah.
And then from there you can learn how to connect with somebody else.
Yeah.
But it takes time and practice, and again, I went to 3 high schools and 2 colleges. Like all I know are newness.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And that helps mold you for sure. And and for me, a lot of it was early days as well. My parents were cool. My mom worked for airlines, who traveled a bit, mainly Caribbean places and whatnot, but still it was new experiences. But I saw myself kind of a little more outgoing than some of my friends, right? So like we would go to like the neighboring towns and cities to try to meet people, and I'd always be the one having to go up to them, which I love.
Yeah.
Actually, it's like almost an adrenaline rush. It's like, what can I do to meet this person real quick? What can I do to like vibe with them real quick? Like that was always kind of like a goal of mine. It's like networking before I even knew what networking was. It was just fun. And but even through college, people would always lean on me, like my buddies when we would go out and we're all single, they would lean on me to talk to the group of girls. I'm like, oh, I don't want that pressure every time. Like after a while, it's like annoying almost. It's like, you know, I'm starting to change and adapt too. Like I want somebody else to get out of their comfort zone. So like when they see you do it, they're hyped for you, but also like hopefully it propels them to want to do that too. And to this day, I've seen so many of my friends grow and stretch themselves in many different ways, professionally, personally, etc. But it's just funny seeing that change. But for me, a lot of it has been just putting myself out there in different situations with different types of groups of people, want to understand different types of people, no matter your background. Like I want to like understand like where you're coming from, what you're about. And that to me has helped me excel in many different ways, but I still feel like I got a long ways to go. And we'll talk about that. I feel like a lot of people I met recently even have like their own like journey actually shifting and taking place now.
Yes.
And you know, it's funny because COVID happened only a few years ago, and it feels like forever ago, but it also feels like a short time ago at the same time, right? There's so much growth that's happened in that period for a lot of people, but it kind of forced people to like understand who they are a bit. And for me, I was lucky to have like great management and great leadership that helped mold me, people that invested their time and energy in me to really show that belief in me, which helped me elevate belief in myself.
Love that.
And it's crazy how one person can really change you just by investing the time, the energy. And that's why I love the fact you do the networking, the events, and growing a community. It's because you just take the time to look the person in the eye, get to know them, ask them questions, and you never know what that connection or what that will lead to with relationships in your life later. And perfect example, Robin. So the reason you're here is because Robin.
I know.
And I met her through buddies that are like entrepreneurial spirits or just cool people that she knew and happened to know. And my buddy Matt that I brought on the show, he's like, you should get Robin. She's about to start doing her thing or is in the process with public speaking and speaker coach. And I'm like, awesome. And then next thing you know, Bri's in that world and in that zone and doing her own thing and her own spin off of it all too. And, you know, it's going to keep growing, keep unfolding to something different, something new, a new personality, a new person altogether. And we're totally being intentional with transforming ourselves. Yeah. And that's where people get stuck. They do get stuck and feel like they can't change. Well, no, I'm here to tell you can. So the Mind Growth mission is because that growth can happen no matter what stage you're at, what point you're at, what hardships you've had, what tough things you've been through, what things you're scared of, which will actually help you grow even more. So I want to get to that. So for you, having that background, being an extrovert, being somebody who's been around different experiences, different changes, different worlds altogether, it sounds like, especially with the colleges, the different high schools, and growing up around that, really having to kind of put yourself out there. Was getting to where you're at now a natural fit? Or was there something that was like, okay, this happened, now I gotta shift?
So a little bit of everything, right? Like I think when you have goals in your life, like you're just like, I always knew I loved people. I always knew I wanted to speak one day. I always knew these things, but ironically, I hated public speaking. Like I hated it. I was like, I'm gonna die. Like I don't like attention. Like this is not me. And I went to a school, FIT in New York City, that like there was no test. It was you had to get in front of a room and present everything. Wow. And so best thing I ever learned in college, straight up.
For sure.
But to the point of, so I always knew these things about me. I just didn't know how I was going to get there. And I've always been like, Bri, you're go, go, go. Like, you don't stop. I'm like, but I do, to the point of I value everything in my life, where like people are like, oh, you're a workaholic. I'm like, I am, but I'm not, because I have learned over the time that it's so important to balance friendship and family and work and what brings you happiness and self-care. But at the same time, like, this drives my happiness. Like I genuinely love connecting people. That's like I woke up. I don't sleep because I love it so much. I sleep a little bit, but
I get what you're saying. It keeps you up at night.
It keeps you up because you're like, oh, this is so exciting. Yeah. But I actually, so 2 years ago, this is what really sparked a lot of things. I was dating this guy for 4 or 5 years, and right senior year of college, and moved down to North Carolina, and right before COVID. We ended up living together, all these things, got engaged. And we ended the engagement, and I immediately went back to myself a little bit, like, oh wow, there's this whole part of you that you've been missing because you've been focused on other people, because I am an empath. And I realized, and so I skyrocketed, and I ended up booking a trip to Costa Rica. I sold my house. I flipped it and sold it. But when I sold it on the day of selling, the U-Haul that I was driving, it backed into the home I had just sold. Like, literally, I'm driving away to like move into my new condo.
Yeah.
And the brakes failed. We couldn't live there for a whole weekend.
Oh.
So the new people couldn't move in. I couldn't move out. That didn't record with the state. And like, this had all happened like a few months of each other. So I was like, what the hell? Excuse my French. So I ended up breaking down in front of like the whole neighborhood. And let me tell you, I don't break down in front of people.
Yeah.
And I went to action, like got the lawyers, like, you know, like got the settlement paid out for the home insurance. Like everything was going on plan. Thursday we're supposed to reclose again. Doesn't happen. Have to put the home back on the market. Have to decide within 24 hours if I'm buying this condo. Remind you, I lost a fiance, a dog, a cat, friends, all within a few months. Like, and this was like the top of it. And so pretty much, I ended up. They tried suing me too on top of it all.
Wow.
Oh yeah, this was fun.
Oh,
From September to November. On November, the last day of November, the house sells. Then I had one where it sold for less though. So no lawyer would take my case, and I ended up taking on U-Haul by myself, and I won. By the way, don't mess with me. I won.
Okay,
They paid me out for what was due because their brakes failed.
Yeah.
And we moved on with life. But because of that experience and everything in that year, I was like, I need to live the life that I want to live and stop doing it for other people.
Yeah.
And I traveled to Costa Rica. I booked a trip, and I was like, well, I always wanted to travel solo, so let's do it. And I did it, and I went, and I came back from it like, well, if I can travel solo, then I can go public speak. Like, if I can do these things, getting outside my comfort zone, why can't I continue to grow? And within a week of coming back from Costa Rica, I booked one of my biggest conferences. It was like 200 plus people. And I remember the woman asking me, like, have you spoken in front of 200 people? And I was like, yeah. I was like, no, in my head. But I was like, I'm not going to tell her no. Like, I've spoken in front of people many of times.
Yeah.
And then the journey just kept going, honestly. And like, I could chat all day about that. But yeah, that was the beginning of this year, actually.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it's only been like 11 months.
It's crazy how that one decision leads to the next decision, leads to the next, and then it's a chain reaction of events that take place that strengthen you to do something that like you didn't expect.
Oh yeah.
You know, you're ending up at a place where, okay, this sparked something in me. And you know, you had to be challenged, of course. You had to have things not go your way to end up going your way, so to speak. So, I always mention a phrase I've heard from Ed Milet several times is things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And once you start using that as a perspective shift, like so many great things can happen because, you know, realizing that like you can take control, you can be the one to make a difference, make an impact, make decisions, make changes, and then it just grows from there, right? And it's being consistent that we talked about. But no, it's funny because like traveling solo is something I never really did much of. I would go on trips and maybe venture off on my own here and there, but you know, but as far as like last year for me, I did the solo travel, the backpacking, the hiking, the different things like that where let me see what I'm capable of, like my independence and my freedom and like what that feels like knowing that I'm accomplishing something here. So I did some journaling, thinking gratitudes, did some reading, obviously met all sorts of groups of people, amazing people. And I know I probably got them in my journal. I can't remember all the names off the top, but like so many different interesting people everywhere, and so many that are willing to put themselves out of their comfort zone and start their own journey. And you know, some people are making a living, not making much, but they're super happy. You know, and I realized that I've had the jobs where you're making a ton of money. I've had the jobs where it's a grind and you're not making a ton of money. And it's not really about that, right? So you got to get deeper into who you are, what you want to do, what you want to help implement in your life so that not only you change yourself, but that leads to you helping others and being a direct impact on others' lives as well. But you have to be pursuing that change within yourself. And that's what I really love about like your story as well. It's like, okay, all these things were happening. I finally like got through them. I'm still like on a mission to do my stuff. And this public speaking, I'm going to go in confidently saying I did it in front of 200 people.
Yeah.
But maybe I did kind of, in a way, like I can kind of relate, because like at your sales management role at my last gig, they would have me like speak every now and then, like add something to a speech that my branch manager was having, and it'd be about 200 people. So I guess I can qualify that, but no, I mean, what I'm saying is it always kind of starts from something else.
Yeah.
Like you've spoken in front of people before, right? Like in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And one thing that I think a lot of people get scared of is maybe the preparation. What can they speak about? What is it about their life that matters that could maybe help others' lives? Well, I'm here to say, like, everybody has something that's part of their story that can help others.
Yeah.
And help others want to change. So what is it about your story that you feel like others can benefit from, and what are some of the topics you like to cover?
Yeah, definitely. When I did that one in April, I spoke about choices, because I think everything that we're talking about right now, like getting outside your comfort zone, or like taking that trip and finding yourself a little bit more, or working on a podcast, like it comes down to your choice. It's at the end of the day. And that is a lot of mental work and mindset and stuff, but you have the choice every single day to create the life that you desire, and you can't blame anyone else for it, honestly. And so my favorite thing is, like, 98% of us are stuck in our comfort zone. That is literally 98% of us who literally will watch our lives pass us by, then live the life that we want to live. And so I remind myself, if I were to, like, if today was my last day, it might sound a little depressing, but if today is my last day, would I go out on a high note? Like, am I satisfied with the work that I put in and living the life that I want to live? And so that's kind of what I speak about a lot, because we get to make those choices. Nobody else does. We can make excuses too. But does that serve us? Does it serve other people? And another thing that's really important is, like, the people you're surrounding yourself with, which is really why I do what I do, is it is so impactful of where you put your energy. You can be in a room of 100 people. Negativity spreads with just one person, honestly, and the rest, like, they're gonna build you up. And if you're surrounding yourself with the right amount of people, and the people who want to see you succeed or support you or create those relationships, you're going to. But if you have one person telling you not to, that's a choice you're making to continue that friendship or relationship, versus taking a step back and being like, let me take a look around who's around me and who's supporting me, and then take action. So the theme is choices and relationships, but I mean, we can break that down so much further, right?
For sure,
like,
100%.
Yeah.
I read stuff all the time that talks about the relationships and the choices you make within that, and what you're doing to kind of elevate yourself within that realm, right? Like, a lot of us do get so comfortable that it's like, oh, it's okay. And oftentimes we got to tell ourselves, like, no, it's actually not. Like, there's so much more to our story. There's so much more we can do. And there's so much more change that can occur within us. And, that starts with, like, a mindset. It starts with a perspective. It starts with evaluating, like, where you're at, what you've done, where you want to go, who you want to be, what you want to be about, who you want to be around. And eventually you just find that, because you're being intentional with these choices, as you put it. And I do want to read this before we get too far away from traveling topics and whatnot.
Talk all day.
But I love this post from you, Bri, here. All right, so I'm going to read it, because it's going to be funny hearing it from a guy.
Yeah, I know.
It's in your words. Yeah, let me read it. Hey there, I'm Bri Blair. And if you're just getting to know me, I started with a goal, like each one of you, to inspire and uplift others to become their best self and live the life they desire. Once the idea of public speaking seemed like an insurmountable fear,
I like my words.
I do too. Topping the list of common fears for many, absolutely. Most of us can say that's a fear of ours. But life taught me that it's in stepping beyond our comfort zone that we uncover our true selves and inner strength. I had always wanted to travel solo, but excuses held me back until one day I decided to just go for it. Sounds like my story last year, which is awesome. And what could I lose? And the trip changed everything for me. And for me too, like empowerment of myself, right?
I love that.
And it made me realize if I can travel the world alone, I can stand up and share my story, a story of ups and downs, just like each one of you. Now I'm all about using my experiences to connect and inspire others, because life is full of choices and we have the choice to choose the life we desire. 100% believe in all that.
Yeah.
And this path is more than just delivering speeches. It's about cultivating a space for collective growth and building relationships with others. I'm thankful for every part of my journey, the highs and the lows, as they have brought me here and continues to shape the person I've become. If you've ever felt pull between who you are and who you are supposed to be,
Yep.
if you've ever found yourself standing at the crossroads of safe and soul stirring, then you'll understand the essence of my words. And I think we can all relate. This is not just my story. It's an invitation, a beckoning to anyone who's ever found themselves lost in the shadows of the checkboxes to step into the light of your own power and discover who you are and the life you want to create. It's time you commit yourself to embrace who you are. Your dreams and aspirations matter, and you can achieve them. BB Hart.
Yeah.
That's her, BB. But no, amazing. I mean, that's just perfect. And so many of us can relate to all this text that I just read here. It's like a freaking scripture I'm reading. You know, I feel like I just went to church reading that, which is awesome. I mean, we all have like a similar journey too.
Yeah.
Like everybody's journey
relatable.
is unique. Everybody's experiences are unique and different, but we can all relate in the fact there is a story, there is a journey, there are stuff that have changed us and molded us to who we are and who we're becoming, and we know that it's not enough. We know that we need to do more, and and we're challenged by that. We get stuck by that, and it's people like Bri who are showing that like what's possible, and just take the first step that leads to the next step, to the next one. So choice by choice, then you're starting to see some momentum, and that momentum. I always go to this. It's never overnight.
No, it is not.
So tell me like your fears and like how where you're at now, and are you still fearful of some of the same things, but has it just decreased a bit? You know what I mean? So go into that a little bit.
You know, when I first started this whole journey with like public speaking and everything, I don't like being vulnerable, actually, which is the ironic part of all of it, if you think about it, right? Because you're getting in front of people and you're talking, and I consider myself actually a more private person. And so that was my fear of putting myself out there. And that's what held me back for so long, is like, oh, what if someone doesn't relate or doesn't like my story, or like, and then I had to remind myself, I don't care, actually. Like, if you don't relate, then you don't relate. But if one person does, and that's my goal for every speech, if one person can take away something from what I say, then I made an impact, and that's all that matters.
Ooh,
yeah.
That's so true. That's so true. And guys, if you look at it on a scale like that, that's when the shift occurs, right? You're when you're changing, and then you're putting yourself out there, and you're wanting to help people in that process, even if it just helps one person, you've accomplished your goal. So you can move forward to the next goal and the next thing and the next step. And it's funny, every time I hear somebody speak on what you just spoke on there, I think of Arnold Schwarzenegger and his big speech of ignore the naysayers.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, ignore the naysayers. There'll always be the people hating on your dreams. You know, there'll always be people that think you can't do it. There'll always be people that are doubting you, questioning you, that might not like your style, that might actually crap on your social media, whatever. Like, those people ain't for you. They're not going to help you get to the next stage anyway. So why do you give them any energy or any importance, right?
And I think, not to cut you off or anything, but when you're on this journey of like bettering yourself and bettering others and doing what fuels your passion, and I had this conversation with one of the speakers a few weeks ago. I said, what did you find were the people that surrounded you after the event versus the ones that you expected to be there and we're not there, but we're there? And this is when you start, like, you're stepping into a new version of yourself. And so some people are not going to come along for the ride, and other people that you don't expect to will. And you can focus on that negative people who aren't there, or you can focus on all the new relationships that you're creating that are going to get you to that next level, like you just mentioned.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so true. That's so true. Because it could be best friends.
Yeah.
That ain't there for you or supporting.
Been there. Yeah.
You know, and that's what's crazy is because, you know, they can still be a part of your life.
Yes.
But they're not the part of your life that's going to help you get to that next version, that elevated path you're seeking, right? But they can still be a part of your life. And sometimes they can't be, though. And that's the hard decisions we must make, is sometimes we do have to cut out some relationships to help us propel even more due to the stress and some of the energy that it takes with those relationships. It's important for us to understand there might be a cutoff. And that'll be okay, because I feel like it always works out in the long run. And even if it rubs you the wrong way immediately, but you know you're making the right choice, it's always going to be for the betterment, right, of you and how you're able to impact others later, because you're working on your growth and on yourself and doing the things that are important in your life, that matter in your life, that you prioritize, that you see is going to be valuable for you, but not only you, your future and your future self, and how that's going to benefit others in the long run. And then you can help coach people. You can help people learn and grow or be motivated by it. You can help them figure something out because you've been through it and you did all the hard steps that it took to get to where you're at. So then they'll see that and be like, holy cow, how do you do it? Like, even something as simple as just starting this podcast, and you see my sloppy setup here. But like, you know, you go to YouTube, you find out about it. I even got a brand manager, Darren Brown, that I've hired. So I'm going to try to grow this thing into something big.
That's amazing.
And put me on CNBC or Fox or one of these networks someday. ABC, I don't know. Like
someday, a day. Okay, it's happening. You heard it here now.
So eventually, you know, that's where I want to be. I want to be in front of a bigger audience to reach more people. You know, that's what it's about. Like, but I know that I'm on a mission to improve myself first. And I still feel like I have a long way to go. And the reason I asked you that question a minute ago is because, like, people don't believe in you. But, like, sometimes, like, when you're on that journey, on that path, you lose a little bit of belief in yourself. And you start to doubt certain things you're capable of, because it gets harder, right? Like, the more you grow, the more you stretch yourself. Certain things get easier, of course. And you build some confidence and momentum. But then you start to doubt yourself on, like, wow, am I ready for this part? Am I going to be okay? Is my story good enough? Is this speech going to be good? Like, there are certain things that might creep into your mind. So how do you personally combat that? And how are you dealing with that now?
I think for the longest time, I identified as a perfectionist. Which really held me back, because I felt that everything needed to be perfect for me to even like put a speech together or put an event together. And then once I realized that I didn't have to be perfect, which is a whole story in itself,
For sure.
I made the baby steps to, you know, I did 3 years of Friendsgiving before I did this community event, for example. And I finally put it together, and I was like, I'm building confidence with myself, and I remind myself every time I do something, that's me and like the choices I made. And so if I get into my head, which happens all the time because we are human, and let's be honest here,
that's
like,
what I was getting at.
We're human, and people forget that a lot of the times. That it's like, oh, you see people making moves. It's like, don't let anyone get you wrong. Like, we're all human. We all have our bad days, but how do you respond to those bad days? Sometimes it's sitting there and being like, okay, we're just going to journal this out and like let like work out or do something that like makes me feel good. Other times it's like, look at everything I did in such a short amount of time, whether that I'm proud of. Nobody else needs to be proud of it. And that's kind of what keeps me going. And again, constantly surrounding myself with like good people. Because I am an extrovert, I do feed off other people. So I have to, like, I love networking events. And so I'll go and I'll be like, ooh, a new idea sparked. Let's try this. Like, these things are constantly changing. But that's kind of what keeps me going on the bad days. It's like, You just did that within 24 hours, and you got on stage and spoke to 200 people that you thought you would never do a day in your life.
Yeah.
Why can't you do the next thing?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like when you
For
traveled
sure.
solo, like
Sometimes you got to go back to that place.
Yeah.
Right? And that state of being of like, I did that.
yeah,
To help you, elevate, get to the next thing, get kind of motivated and hungry again or
Yes.
inspired again because you have done these things, big or small, already. Sometimes you have to go to that. It's not just going to be there right in front of you and be motivated and cheerio every day. Like, it's not that. It's like there's different ways you have to get inspired and knock the things out each day to build some momentum. And sometimes we get away from that naturally. But like,
Yeah.
then you just have to go back to the tools in your toolbox to be like, all right, let's reset here. Let's evaluate here. Like, let's reflect here. You know? So like, sometimes that is where you find that motivation and inspiration. I feel like we all kind of don't take the time to ourselves enough to really truly live in that. There's so
Yes.
much we've done. No matter what you're doing career wise, where you're at relationships wise, there's so much you've accomplished. Like if you're 20 something, 30 something and on this earth right now, you've accomplished a lot, believe it or not. There's a lot of people struggling out there and you're making it, you're able to listen to this today, things like that. So I think, that in of itself, what you said is inspiring. Also, you mentioned networking. I went to Bri after the speaking event, the Power of Voice here in Charlotte, that Robin put on, and the ladies were awesome. They killed it. But I went to Bri. I was like, I kind of want to get more involved, do more networking and stuff. And then Bri starts listing off stuff. She's like, I got you. And then boom, 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 boom. I'm like, all right, Bri, dang.
I expect you there.
yeah, exactly. So, it's just putting yourself out there and asking the questions. Like if you want to be about something or part of something, you do got to put yourself out there. Robin, for example, does it in many ways, but she has invested a lot of money. So sometimes it is financially, you have to give some stuff up.
Yes.
But you don't have to start there. Like there's a lot of stuff you can do for free to help you get propelled and get going,
And I think to your point of like starting for free, let's say for example, is that's where those relationships come in because people want to help other people.
Yeah.
They might not say that
especially the
upfront.
more successful they are, the more they're willing to help, I feel.
Exactly. And if they're the right people, then they're going to, and that can propel you into more of those financial investments like Robin does and mastermind groups or other courses, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But you have to create relationships first to do it, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to learn from other people on what is going to get you to your potential and growth.
Yeah. And a lot of women I've spoken to in the last few months, even I would say, are doing like yoga retreats because they want to find a community. They want to be at a solid place, mind space and mindset type of atmosphere. And I think it's great. They're going to an awesome island or land to do it. It's usually like Bali or something crazy, right?
Sign me up.
And then that's awesome. Like it does cost money, but like the investment that you make in yourself is always the most important.
You are your biggest investment.
Yeah, so that money will come back around because you've chosen to take time for yourself and dedicated that time and the money and the energy for building yourself up. So it will come back around, in my opinion, too. That's why I'm invested in the brand guy. I believe in him. He's done great stuff, and he believes in me, obviously, to be able to do it and take the time. And it comes back around. But there's so many people in my life, shout out to Mom, that's always inspiring and so loving, so caring, but so motivating at the same time. She's always saying she's proud of me, and even if I don't say that about myself, I got my mom that's always like when you least expect it, she comes out with some good stuff like that. And that's the thing, guys. There's always somebody rooting for you. Yeah. There's always somebody like watching you that's like really there and want to be a part of it. And once you take those steps, you'll realize you're affecting change in more and more people. And that's what I see in these young ladies and the people I've interviewed and the men that are entrepreneurials, the guys that are starting their own business, or Adam Hallen, who's working at the White House, making a difference in many ways. And some of these people are just they're super normal. You just talk to them and they're the most normal people ever, It's just we feel like we're not good enough yet. And that's one thing that kind of stood out about like you getting up there to speak. You were kind of talking about some of that.
Yeah.
And I want to get to some of the notes I had here.
All right. I saw you taking notes on everybody's because it was amazing.
And one thing I love, she had 2 plants up there. One of them was a little frail, and the other one was thriving. And she said the mind is a mental garden, which I love that because the more you water it, the more it grows, so to speak. The more you give it nutrients and life, the more life it's going to bring out of it, right?
Look at you. Want to do my speak?
Hey, we out here.
I got you next time. You can do it.
I got everybody else, too. I can't wait to have the other ladies
I
on,
know.
too.
They spoke about some great stuff.
Yeah, some amazing people, amazing network, and I'm just thankful for that experience. So glad we did. I can't wait for doing more and more with you guys. But also Bri mentioned in her speech, becoming her own best friend.
Yeah.
And we get so quick to doubt ourselves, hate on ourselves, think we're not good enough, fear of whatever, fear of this, fear of that. We always question ourselves. Oh, that thing that I did the other day, it wasn't good, it wasn't right, can I come back from it, or something. It's just, there's always something we can nitpick about our life that we're not doing good enough. Trust me, everybody has a few flaws, guys.
No one is perfect.
No one is ever perfect. And for even perfectionists to understand that, it's hard, but it's like real for everybody. Like we're working on ourselves always. That never stops. You can always improve. And she also mentioned when you talk to yourself, would you say the things that you're saying to yourself to a loved one?
Yeah.
And that's for real, right? Like, think about it for a second. Take a step back before you start having all these things come at once at you. Just take a minute to think, like, is this something I'd say to people that I love and truly care about? Yeah. Chances are probably not.
Yeah. And if so, that's another conversation.
And then, quite a bit of an analogy here. Beauty and imperfection. That's something that with the plants being there, even though the one's frail, it can still grow too.
Yes.
It can still change. It can still morph into something beautiful as well. So the beauty is in the imperfection of it all. It's about like the experience that you go through, the things you're challenged with or faced with in life.
Yeah.
Like I have friends that have been on this podcast. One of them has autism, and he's doing so many special things for so many people, helping cancer patients, help them thrive and become healthy.
Wow.
He's helping people with group exercise.
That's phenomenal.
And their exercise in life and their mindset. Just somebody that's, who knows, like if he went down another path,
choices,
like what would happen, but it's like he chose to go all in, and it was a slow process. For one, he has autism, so he had to grow up with that and deal with that. But then he had to go into a career and go out on his own and become his own person and, not make much money doing what he was doing. And then keep excelling, keep getting degrees, keep getting smarter, keep working at his craft, keep becoming more of who he is. And he just dug in deeper to who he is. And now he's changing lives and, he's living his best life in Miami. He's got an ocean view in Miami.
He's doing it right and giving back.
Chris Fitzmaurice, shout out. But we're challenged with so many things, and so many people will say, "Oh, he's goofy. What? I can't believe in him or trust." So many people probably read the book by its cover when they're not flipping the pages and opening it up.
That's good. Yeah. Well, yeah, because you don't have a book without a story.
Yeah.
And that's just is what it is. You could read the back of every book like you just mentioned, but until you actually delve into it, if you go back to relationships and what your friend's doing, right? He's creating a relationship and community with other people, and that's part of the story. You can summarize it, but at the end of the day, you create your own experiences for what you want.
Yeah, and he could have took having the autism as an excuse.
100%.
And now he's using it to give back.
I love
doing charity races and fundraisers and stuff like that we talked about on the podcast episode as well. But we're all challenged in battling something. It might not be autism or something mentally or something physically, but you know, there's something that we're struggling with, or maybe it's a habit that's a bad one that we can't get rid of. There's always something, but like once you start being intentional about improving or overcoming or using it as like your superpower, next thing you know, you're changing lives, and with that you're changing your own life, right? And then you're adding new experiences. But like you said, opportunity for growth, I mean, it's always out there. We just got to go get it, I believe. And but the words I say to myself matter, is what you put in there.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with that, because, you know, it's so easy to get negative. It's so easy to get down. Many of us do it, and many of us do it for reasons that we don't take a second to even think about. We're just feeling down. We're just in our feels. And in all reality, if you go back to journaling, or if you go back to gratitude, or you go back to thinking or reflecting about how good you actually got a lot of things, and not to play a comparison thing, but hey, what's right in front of me? What do I have right here, right now? Like what is me? You know, what am I about? Like, what have I done? What have I accomplished? What do I have? I got a roof over my head, many books here, you know, many books I haven't read yet over there. So, you know, you can constantly be growing, and that growth is always there for you, you know, and a lot of times we're easy to count ourselves out and think it's overwhelming or it's too much, but no, it's start with the baby steps.
Baby steps.
Baby steps.
That's what I preach all the time, even in my regular job. I'm like, baby step our way. We don't go from A to Z. We have to celebrate the little wins. It actually builds us confidence. Like psychologically speaking, we're building and we're learning to trust ourselves. Because one of the biggest, when we have a goal, right, and we say we're going to read 5 books, right, in 1 year, and let's say we never read a book before. If I don't read those 5 books in a year, I now don't trust myself the next time I say something in a goal. So instead, break down those baby steps. I'm going to read 1 chapter a week, whatever it may be. And then as you start reading that chapter a week, you're learning to trust yourself. And the same thing goes to everything else in your life. When you say, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to make a new friend, or I'm going to start this new habit goal, you're building confidence and trust in yourself, and that's what keeps you going continuously, because you're seeing the impact that it's making on your life.
Yeah, when I had my team huddles, I would always mention, like, stick to your commitments. The stuff you say you're going to do that day, knock them off your checklist, right? Like, make sure you're checking those boxes of the things you told yourself you're going to do. That's how you build that incremental momentum and motivation for yourself. It's like, I can do this. Here's a win here, here's a win here, and watch it grow. But also something you said that's really important. You talked about the bigger goal, but you talked about breaking it down, going backwards into breaking it down. You know, the whole book might seem daunting and a task in itself, but like reading a chapter at a time and putting a time limit on it, okay, I can work with that. You know, now I can get my wins from that. So sometimes we put the bigger picture of it all as too much of a weight, and don't break it down into, okay, here's what I need to do by X time, which is much more simpler than thinking about the overall of what I need to do. And
eventually you'll reach the overall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for you, your fun facts here, what all are you involved with? You said like you have a full-time gig as well, and some other things you're involved with. So just speak on that, because, you know, a lot of people think, you know, there's not enough time in the day, and I think workaholic should be a compliment, by the way. But I mean, what all are you involved with?
Yeah, I still work my full-time job in banking, actually. And I'm very blessed to have a really great team. I love it, and a great manager.
Shout out Truist.
I also coach soccer with Charlotte Independence.
Wow.
Yeah, so I have a team with another coach of mine. She's amazing. And we have about 26, 27 girls that we coach. It takes about 3 days a week during the season time. Yeah. And I have my pet business. That started as a passion project, actually.
That's great. Yeah.
We are working to hire people out, so that will come probably in 2024. But it's called Penny's Pets and Plants. And my dog's name is Penny, and I trained her to be a certified therapy dog, so she can go to nursing homes and hospitals. And so that's where the name comes. Right. But that focus is actually helping millennials in their homes when they travel. our pets are like our kids. Let's be honest here. But also our plants are too. How many people do you know that have plants that need it to be watered, all right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a different type of, it's not turnkey, it's true relationship building. And I'm particular about the clients that I accept and making sure that they're getting like true home care and home pet care and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, that's awesome. And you know, this whole time we've been talking about public speaking
Yeah.
and, you know, coaching people or helping others. But like, you know, I mean, it's funny when you live more in that passion and the purpose fulfilled self, you can take on much more.
Yeah.
And that's what we get away from. We can have our full-time job we hate and just hate it and not be productive with other stuff. Or we can find things that move us to make us do more, to make much more effort in life and in other things and follow our passion for things. And what is that? What, you know, how do you find that out? And for you, I mean, you're talking about pets and plants. A lot of us have a passion for those, right? So, like, you know, how can you mold that into something? And then coaching soccer, if you played soccer all your life, it's a natural fit. You know, there are certain things, skills or qualities that you have that you might not be aware could help others or could benefit or be a part of, like, your everyday life, even though you're not consciously aware of it right now. Like, sometimes you got to think about that and how that can help change your life and mold you into more of who you are too.
Yeah.
So for you doing all these things, you know, that speaks to something, you know, but it's also, in my eyes, when people are involved with so many things, it's not that they're looking at it like, hey, I want to checklist all these things. No, it's like, this is the stuff that makes me tick.
Fills my cup.
Yeah, it fills my cup, and it's the stuff that I need to, like, help me even, to help me get motivated daily, to help me get up, help me, you know, wake up with enthusiasm and with excitement for the day. Because if every day was the same, what happens?
You're stuck.
Yeah,
you stop growing.
You kind of shrink. I would say you go a little bit backwards, and I've been there. I mean, I don't know if you have the way you move, but, but you know,
we've all been there.
Okay, we've all been
some
there.
form of fashion.
Fair enough. And that's just what I want to say to anybody listening is, like, there's often times where you're so disconnected to, like, what makes you tick and what makes you truly happy or fulfilled. And you just get into the everyday routine of, okay, I'm working out, I'm eating, I'm going to sleep. Like, that's my day. When your day could have so much more on top of that.
Yeah.
But you're not making the time for it. You're not finding the things that energize you to move you further towards your goal, right? You're not doing that. So in that case, it does make you go backwards. And I did that in a way where, you know, I was working for a company that was a great company, Red Ventures, out here in Fort Mill. You know, it was a very good culture, a lot of younger people working there, a lot of brilliant minds working there, a lot of successful people started their careers there. And, you know, I took the time to get to know as many people as possible, the CEOs, the big wigs, the sales agents, sales reps, anybody onboarding, the managers, whoever, marketing team. I would try to get to know all of them and build relationships. Yeah. To this day, there's so many of them that I want to bring on this podcast because, you know, I'm so far removed from that version of myself in that life, but I see them moving and how they're moving and how they're molding and how they're changing and how they're adapting. And it's just an amazing thing to see. I'm inspired by that. But what I'm getting at is I also, that kind of helped me get through the job, you know, is knowing those people and getting to know them and ask questions very often. But it also was one of those times where I was like partying every weekend, going out, and that was my life. You know, like it just, all right, I have to be out this weekend. Work was so stressful, you know, like it just, you know, it's a grind itself.
What society tells you.
And what society tells you. So it's easy to hit up the other friends, single or not, and be like, oh, let's go out. Like, yeah, they're usually willing to, like, you know, so then you got to realize, like, all right, one day you got to wake up and be like, all right, dang, I've been doing this pattern for so long. Like, when am I going to change this? Like, what am I doing? And, like, you know, then you see 7, 8, 9 years later, you're like finally thinking about it to evaluate yourself. And like, it took me a while. Like, in my 20s, I was going pretty hard in the paint, I would play sports, and focus on like physically being good, but maybe not mentally being good, you know what I'm saying? And that is the biggest difference that's happened in my life, is like being intentional with the mindset and with perspective and with who I can become, things like that. And it's so funny because if we go to more recent time, I realize how much quicker that stuff is going in my favor since I've been intentional, more intentional, And, it's easy to just get away from things. But, like, once you start to be aware of it, and once you start to make different choices, then other choices will happen with that. And it just spins off into something special. And, I feel like I'm only getting started. So
it's only the beginning.
I feel like you probably feel the same way, right?
Yeah.
And you've already accomplished so much. And that's my point, is that there's so many things that are trying to waking us up that we don't listen to that enough. We listen to the negative, or hey, let me get stuck on doing the same things. Not like, you do have to stretch yourself, get out of your comfort zone, be challenged, get new relationships if you need it, in your life, which most of us do. There's always one or two people you can add, and maybe one or two you can drop off or disconnect with a bit. Most of us can say that, let's be honest. Or maybe that's where your shift has to start, and some of us just got to realize, like, there's certain energy we're putting towards things that shouldn't be given that attention.
And I think once someone sits in that, right? And really evaluates where that energy is being put, and then rechange where they're putting that energy, they will see their life change in so many ways. Even just like new friendships, like it'll spark an excitement in someone, right? You know what I mean?
For sure.
Same thing if, like, then you find your passion, you're like, oh, I'm putting energy into this, and it fills your cup. Like, whatever it is, like, where you put your energy matters.
100%. And also, I just want to see where we're at on time. We're about at an hour, which I think is a good amount of time. Time flies when you're having fun and just talking about stuff you care about. And that's really what it comes down to, is the stuff that you care about. When you start taking control of your life and the things that are really going to move the needle for how you wake up every day, how you approach every day, that's when that change starts to occur. And, the best part of your life is yet to be written.
It's just the beginning, like we said. We have a whole chapter.
There's so much more that can happen for you that you don't even understand or know what that looks like yet. You just got to go after something. And then it's funny how other things kind of arrive and show up. And it's crazy. I could be talking about so many things now, right? But there's probably some things for you that you're like, okay, well, I started this journey, but this opened my eyes to things, right? And we got so many friends like that, I'm sure. And it's just amazing to see. But, I want everybody to grow and to stretch themselves. It was the biggest thing for me when I had somebody believe in me and then truly believe in myself. It made the biggest difference, and it's putting the energy in the right places, being intentional, goal setting, reflecting. You have done things, even if you don't feel like you've accomplished much, you probably have, and just not taking the time to appreciate yourself and where you're at, and then what you can do with that. Those experiences help change lives. So just make sure to be intentional. But what is one thing you want to say for people that are trying to put themselves out there, trying to take on more, or trying to follow their passion or their purpose? What are some things you can tell those people really struggling with, like, either getting to know themselves or maybe just trying to find themselves and figure out what they're good at, what they're passionate about, where they can help change?
I think the first thing is, might sound cliche, but sit with yourself with a notebook in a room, put on some relaxing classical screamo, I don't care, but sit there and write down the things that bring you joy in your life. Honestly, I think we forget that a lot of the time. And from reminding yourselves what brings you joy, you'll probably realize that a lot of things on that list are not what's in your life. And then you start making an impact from there. You can make one change at a time.
Dang, I love that. So that's separate than gratitude.
Separate from gratitude.
So the things that give you joy
Yes.
And if you can, let's give an
Happy to
example.
expand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, one of my biggest goals in my life is to open up a nonprofit. And I created business plans, and for years it's been sitting there. And someone asked me not that long ago and said, Bri, what's your biggest goal? And I was like, travel the world, speak, and open up a nonprofit. She's like, well, are you working towards that? I'm like, to a point. And she goes, why aren't you doing, the nonprofit work? Why are you doing the other things you're working on? Yeah. And I said, touche. And so that sparked the idea of wanting to do all these events I've been doing. They've been in my mind for years, like 3, 4, 5 years. And I finally just went ahead and did it. But it had me sitting there and being like, why am I not doing it? Because it brings me so much joy sitting in a room with a bunch of people and connecting them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when I say, like, find the things that bring you joy and match where it is in your life and what's missing.
I love that. And that's so funny because we all have these things on our list that feel so far away, but have we even taken some of the necessary steps to even get towards it or to touch it at all? Have we touched it yet?
Yeah.
And usually the answer is no. And that's where we got to decipher, how important is it to me? And now is as good as ever. Why am I waiting? And a lot of us put off things that we shouldn't. And if you really want to change your life, you start doing those things that you always had a niche for, that you always had the urge to do, or you've always thought in the back of your mind, or you felt somewhere in your body like you needed to do it. Like, those are the things that are going to move you closer to the things you're supposed to be a part of in your life. And we all have them. We all think of them. But what are we doing? And that's seriously my recent life in a nutshell. It's like, what more can I do? And I still want to be challenged and do more. And there's so much more I will do. And 100%. I might feel far away from it, but I know it's just one thing. Let me start with one thing. It'll lead to the next thing, then to the next thing, and just create a simple. If you have to, work backwards like Bri did in some of these cases. And what are the small steps I can take before I take that big step too? But write out the list. I think one of the most important changes I had too was goal setting with one of the managers that I was talking about that helped mold my life. But goal setting and writing it down and being intentional about what that looks like. And what that looks like in a personal life column, a material column, a mental column, a relationship column, all these different columns for your goals, and then the timeline for each 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, 1 month, whatever it is, right? Sometimes it's just as simple as starting there. If you think about the things that bring you joy, you think about the things you want in life,
you can get all of it too. I think that's the most interesting part. And when you said a timeline, for example, I'm a planner at heart. I planned my whole life, checked the boxes, and for the first time in my life, I have not planned anything. And there is more excitement in that than there is planning something. I don't mean plan your goals out.
Right.
I mean being open to opportunities, because what might be your biggest goal in life might actually not be, and that's okay, but you'll learn that as you're on that journey. And being open and adaptive to those changes. And
that's what I see in a lot of cases, is just people going after something, and then it oftentimes even spins off to something else that's actually their niche or something that works for them. And look at it like maybe an actor that wanted to be in comedy, but he's actually better at doing more serious roles, and now he's profiting that. Or somebody like The Rock that was great at wrestling, and now he's an actor in a comedy. It's sometimes you pursue these things and they just lead to the next opportunity.
Yes.
And it's what you do with that opportunity once it happens, right?
Yes.
Are you taking that stride? Are you going to take that step towards that new thing, or are you just going to sit in your ways? And, it's good to be challenged. It's good to force yourself out of your comfort zone. Yeah. And I do want to say it's just been a freaking pleasure. Any note you want to end on here to the audience? And also, I want you to make sure before we get off to tell people what you got going on, what's coming up, where they can find you, and the different things you have going on as well.
Yeah. Well, first, thank you so much for having me. I love what you do. I think it's so important to share the growth around the the community, yourself, like the world, and showing up for the Power of Voice where we met, because you could tell in the audience you were so impactful and wanted to be there, and that spreads and makes other people want to be there too. So just know that, like, we're very thankful, and plus love surrounding ourselves with good people. But yeah, I'm working on some new events to bring the community together. It's all relationship focused. So the next one is December 30th, and we're partnering with Tempo Golf Club in Huntersville, North Carolina.
Nice.
So it's RSVP because there's fire restrictions, whatever it's called, of how many people can be there. But the focus is to foster relationships around the holidays, and hopefully one day those relationships will bring you somewhere. And that's my goal right now, of working on through these events. And the Real Reveal podcast will be coming out in early 2024. So if you want to be a special guest, Dave, come on.
Let's go. I accept the invitation.
Yay!
For sure. Let's do it.
I'm sure there's so much to talk about.
Oh gosh.
That's about it.
Yeah, I love it. And where can people find you on the social and all the different platforms?
Yeah, Instagram's the main one, at Bri Blair, so BRIBLAIRR, 2 R's. And connect with me. I love talking to people and meeting new people. Yeah,
and I'll put the contact info for her at the bottom in the description. But Bri, it's been a pleasure. Super proud of you. Thankful for you. Thanks for doing this and taking time out of your busy schedule and day to do this and share this with the world, because I think they needed it first and foremost. And I think it's super impactful. And to be a woman creating change, doing this, having this voice, sharing your story, it's just a true blessing that I hope everybody gets to experience, and I just can't wait to have the follow up. The next version of ourselves.
Where are we next?
When we meet next, and in a different part of life, and talk about this on this stage and on this platform, because. Exactly, or wherever. And I just think there's so much more to our story, and it's only just begun, and we're already making a difference, and you're already doing so many things to help others, and I love that, and it's inspiring. And just thankful to be sitting in this seat right now and able to interview people like you. Yeah, I love what you do, David. Please continue, because you're making an impact, and super grateful to be able to have this conversation with you. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate Robin for putting Bri on the map. No, I'm just kidding. She's great. If you need a public speaking coach. And Bri doing special things, girl. Can't wait for the next stuff. And check out the event if you're here in Charlotte. RSVP though, because limited seats. And then make sure to follow her, Bri Blair. And just love it, girl. Thank you so much. Thank you. Everybody, you should be inspired after this one. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Everybody have an awesome day and awesome week. Yeah. I've been chasing all these dreams. I'm getting very close. Your work shouldn't feel like work if you really love it. If you set and you know your worth, then think if it's worth it. But I do count my blessings first, so you know I'm grateful every night. But watch me, baby, I'ma take it there. Tell ya I'ma stay the path. Tell ya I've been chasing all these dreams. I'm getting very close. Here we go.